Have you ever noticed that the more people you tell your problems to, the heavier your heart feels? You think it will make you lighter, but in reality, it often makes you weaker. Why? Because not everyone you share your problems with actually cares about you. Some people listen only to gossip, some pretend to sympathize, and others may even use your pain against you. My brothers and sisters, this is why your problems are not for everyone. They are for Allah and for those few trusted people who will truly guide you to Him. The world today has made us believe that opening up to anyone and everyone is healing. Social media encourages us to put our pain out there for strangers to see. But let me remind you, your dignity is priceless, your privacy is powerful, and your reliance on Allah is irreplaceable. When you pour out your complaints to people who cannot solve your problems, you are only wasting your energy. But when you turn to Allah, the one who controls every solution, you will find peace before the solution even arrives. Look at the prophets of Allah. Did they go around sharing their difficulties with everyone? No, they complained only to Allah. Prophet Yaqub, peace be upon him, said, I only complain of my suffering and my grief to Allah. This is a lesson for all of us. Human beings may sympathize for a moment, but only Allah can heal the wound inside your heart. Does this mean you can never speak to anyone? No. Islam allows us to seek advice, guidance, or professional help when needed. But be selective. Don't share your entire life story with every friend, every relative, or every stranger on the internet. Protect your heart. Protect your dignity. Choose wisely who you confide in, because once your words leave your mouth, you cannot take them back. Remember, my brothers and sisters, problems are a test. And every test is designed to bring you closer to Allah, not further away from Him. So the next time you feel heavy, don't rush to your phone to type a long status. Don't rush to gossip with your friends. Rush to your prayer mat. Cry to Allah. Tell Him what no one else will ever understand, because He already knows, yet He loves to hear your voice calling out to Him. In life, not everyone who smiles at you is your well-wisher. Not everyone who listens to you is, but Allah is always sincere, always listening, and always ready to respond. So protect yourself, guard your privacy, and learn this beautiful wisdom. Your problems are not for everyone, they are between you and your Rabb. When a person is faced with difficulties, it is natural to feel the urge to talk about those struggles and seek comfort by sharing them with others. However, one of the greatest mistakes people make is assuming that everyone they meet has the ability or even the intention to genuinely care for their problems. The reality is that not every ear that listens is sincere, and not every heart that seems sympathetic is filled with compassion. Some people may appear to be concerned when in truth they are only curious. Others may listen to your pain not because they want to help, but because they are looking for something to gossip about later. The sad truth of life is that not everyone around you is invested in your healing. This is why we must understand that not everyone cares about our problems, and oversharing them can sometimes leave us even more broken. When you open your heart to someone who does not truly care for you, you risk turning your wounds into a source of entertainment for them. They may nod and pretend to be empathetic, but once you leave, your words could be passed on to others, twisted or exaggerated. What you considered a private confession may quickly turn into public chatter. Instead of feeling relief, you may feel exposed and regretful. This is one of the harms of sharing too freely. A wound that is already painful becomes even harder to bear when you realize it has been mishandled by those who never intended to help you. There is another danger in this habit. When you repeatedly tell your problems to people who cannot change your situation, you often end up feeling more frustrated. Imagine pouring your heart out again and again, yet nothing changes. You may even start feeling weaker because the burden is repeated and magnified each time you recount it. Instead of lightening the load, constant repetition makes the problem heavier. Not only do you feel unheard, but you also begin to lose confidence in yourself. It is like scratching at a wound repeatedly. It prevents healing and increases the pain. Furthermore, we must recognize that some people are not only indifferent to our struggles, but may actively use them against us. Sharing your weaknesses openly can provide others with opportunities to manipulate, judge, or even mock you. In the wrong hands, your vulnerability becomes a weapon. People may remind you of your struggles at times when you least expect it, or they may use your personal disclosures to undermine your dignity. This is why wisdom in sharing is so important. Not every listener is a friend, and not every smile reflects genuine care. Another aspect of this issue is that human beings, no matter how sincere, have limits. Even the ones who care for us may not always be capable of carrying our burdens. They may listen, but they cannot always solve. They may sympathize, but they cannot always heal. They may advise, but their words cannot always bring lasting peace. This shows that putting all our reliance on people is not only unfair to them, but also unfair to ourselves. It is expecting from creation what only the Creator can provide. Understanding this reality should not make us bitter or distrustful of everyone, but it should make us wise. The goal is not to isolate ourselves completely, but to guard our hearts and be selective. Confiding in the wrong person is like placing a priceless treasure in careless hands. Your dignity, your struggles, your emotions, these are precious and deserve protection. By being cautious, you save yourself from unnecessary harm. By being wise, you learn that the value of your struggles is not for public display but for private reflection and sincere supplication to Allah. Ultimately, realizing that not everyone cares about your problems is a lesson in maturity. It teaches us that our deepest pain should not be handed to just anyone. True relief lies not in empty conversations, but in turning to the one who already knows our situation better than we do. And until we learn this, we may continue to be disappointed by people who were never meant to carry the weight of our struggles. When life becomes heavy and our hearts are burdened, the first instinct many people have is to run to others and pour out their emotion. We look for someone who will listen, someone who will sympathize, and someone who can give us comfort. While it is natural to want support, the truth is that people are limited in their ability to help. They can listen, but they cannot always change our situation. They can advise, but they cannot guarantee solutions. They can comfort, but they cannot remove the pain that lives deep inside our hearts. This is why true healing comes only from Allah. He is the one who holds the key to every solution, the one who already knows what weighs us down, and the one who can replace sorrow with peace even before the problem is resolved. When a person turns to people instead of Allah, they often end up disappointed. You may speak for hours, pour out your soul, and yet walk away feeling as though nothing has changed. At best, the listener gives you a few words of encouragement, but the burden remains. At worst, they may minimize your pain or dismiss it altogether. That leaves you feeling even more misunderstood and lonely. This shows us that no matter how much we share with others, they cannot truly heal us. Their hearts are not in control of our destiny, and their hands do not hold the power to change what Allah has decreed. On the other hand, when you pour your problems out before Allah, everything changes. The act of turning to Him is in itself a source of relief. When you raise your hands in dua, cry to Him in sujood, or whisper your grief in the silence of the night, you are connecting directly with the one who is Al-Shafi, the healer of hearts. Even before your circumstances change, your heart feels lighter because you know you are no longer carrying the burden alone. You are placing it before the one who has infinite mercy and who never turns away those who call upon Him. The Quran reminds us that Allah is closer to us than our jugular vein. This closeness means that He understands our pain better than we do ourselves. He knows the tears that never fell, the thoughts we never expressed, and the fears we never told. And people may need us to explain our feelings in words, but Allah already knows the secrets of our hearts. There is no fear of being judged, no risk of being misunderstood, and no chance of being betrayed. That makes reliance on Him not only safer but infinitely more comfortable. Another important truth is that turning to Allah brings peace even when the solution is delayed. Sometimes people believe that peace only comes when problems are solved. But in reality, Allah can place tranquility in your heart even while the storm is still raging. He can grant you patience, strength, and acceptance. He can help you see wisdom in what feels unbearable. That is why those who rely on Allah often seem calmer in the face of hardship than those who depend solely on people. Their secret is not that they are stronger, but that they have learned to hand over their pain to the one who is most powerful. Moreover, when we rely too much on people, we risk weakening our faith. We begin to expect from them what only Allah can give: guidance, solutions, comfort and healing. This creates a cycle of disappointment and frustration because people will always fall short. But when you shift that reliance to Allah, you build resilience instead of despair. Every dua strengthens your bond with Him. Every tear shed in prayer washes away the heaviness. And every moment of trust deepens your faith. Ultimately, true healing comes from Allah because He is the source of peace, the controller of outcomes, and the one who never abandons His. People may stand by you for a moment, but Allah is with you always. People may sympathize with your pain, but Allah has the power to remove it. People may promise to help, but Allah delivers beyond what we could ever imagine. The sooner we understand this, the sooner we will stop wasting our energy on relying too much on people and start finding real comfort in turning to Allah. When we study the lives of the prophets of Allah, we find profound lessons in how they dealt with hardship. These were men chosen by Allah, the most beloved to Him, yet their lives were filled with tests. They faced loss, betrayal, loneliness, and pain greater than most of us could imagine. But what stands out most is not the difficulty they faced, but the way they responded to it. They did not go around telling everyone about their struggles. They did not seek pity or sympathy from people. Instead, they directed their pain to Allah. This is a lesson for every believer that the best place to pour out your grief is not into the ears of people, but into the presence of Allah. Take the example of Prophet Yaqub, peace be upon him. He suffered the heartbreaking loss of his beloved son. For years he endured separation, uncertainty, and the constant ache of not knowing where his child was. His sorrow was so deep that his eyes turned white from crying. Yet when he was questioned about his grief, his response was powerful. He said, "I only complain of my suffering and my grief to Allah." This shows us that even in the darkest moments, he did not turn to the people around him for comfort. Instead, he turned to the one who truly understood his pain and the one who had the power to change his situation. This example carries immense wisdom. People may listen to you, but their ability to change your situation is almost non-existent. They can feel sorry for you, they can say a few comforting words, but they cannot alter the decree of. On the other hand, when you complain to Allah, you are speaking to the one who already has the solution in His hand. He can turn sorrow into joy, despair into hope, and weakness into strength. He can open doors that no human being could ever open. That is why the prophets complained only to Allah, because they knew that is where true relief comes from. The life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, also teaches us this lesson. He faced rejection from his own people, the loss of his beloved wife Khadija, the passing of his children, and the cruelty of enemies. Yet instead of broadcasting his pain to everyone, he would turn to Allah in prayer. He would stand in the night, his feet swollen from long hours of worship, and pour out his heart before his Lord. In moments of distress, he would say, "O Allah, I complain to you of my weakness." Notice that he did not complain to people about Allah, but he complained to Allah about his struggles. This distinction is vital because it shows submission, reliance, and faith. When we compare this prophetic example to our own behavior, we realize how much we fall short. At the slightest inconvenience, many of us rush to friends, family, or even strangers online to pour out our frustrations. We post our sorrows on social media looking for sympathy from people who may not even care. But the prophets showed us a better way, demonstrated that dignity is preserved when you take your pain to Allah. They showed us that peace comes when you pour your grief into sujood rather than into the ears of every passerby. The beauty of following this example is that Allah responds in ways people never can. He comforts the heart in silence, He grants patience in difficulty, and He sends relief in ways we could never predict. When Yaqub complained only to Allah, what happened? Years later, Allah reunited him with his son in the most beautiful manner. When the Prophet Muhammad poured his grief into prayer, Allah elevated him, strengthened him, and gave him victory after years of hardship. These stories remind us that when you choose to confide in Allah instead of people, you are choosing the path that leads to true healing and lasting relief. So the lesson from the prophets is clear. Complaining to Allah is not a sign of weakness, but of faith. It is an acknowledgement that no one can help you the way He can. It is a declaration that your reliance is on Him alone. And when you follow this path, you are not only preserving your dignity, but also strengthening your connection with the one who loves you more than anyone else ever could. In life, everyone faces moments when the weight of problems becomes too much to carry alone, and it feels necessary to speak to someone about them. Islam does not forbid this, nor does it discourage seeking advice or professional help when needed. However, what it emphasizes is wisdom and caution in choosing whom you confide in. Not every person is worthy of knowing your deepest struggles, and not every listener has the sincerity or ability to guide you correctly. This is why being selective is so important. Once your words leave your mouth, you can never take them back, and once your secrets are shared with someone, you lose control over how they might use them. When a person shares their problems too openly, they often assume that others will protect their dignity and treat their pain with respect. Unfortunately, this is not always the case. There are people who may listen only out of curiosity, and others who may later share what they heard with someone else. What began as a personal struggle may quickly become public knowledge. Instead of feeling relief, the person who confided ends up feeling exposed and vulnerable. This is the danger of trusting too easily. Words that were meant for healing can turn into weapons in the wrong hands. There is also the risk of seeking advice from those who lack wisdom or sincerity. Not everyone is capable of guiding you towards a solution that pleases Allah. Some may give advice that leads you further away from faith, or they may encourage you to act on anger or desperation. Others may not take your problems seriously at all, leaving you more frustrated than before. This is why Islam teaches us to seek counsel from those who are trustworthy, knowledgeable, and God-conscious. Speaking to someone who fears Allah ensures that their advice will be sincere and that they will respect the privacy of what you share. At the same time, it is important to remember that confiding in others should be limited. Even the most trusted person should not know every detail of your life. Protecting your privacy is part of protecting your dignity. Your pain is not meant for public display, nor should it be handed over entirely to another human being. Instead, share only what is necessary and what may help you receive the guidance you need. If you are struggling with a personal issue, mention enough for advice to be given, but keep the details guarded. If you seek professional help, share only what is relevant to the healing process. By doing so, you maintain control over your story and prevent unnecessary harm. Another aspect of being selective is realizing that some matters are better left between you and Allah. There are struggles that no one else can understand fully, and some emotions that no human heart can truly hold for you. These are the matters you should take directly to Allah in dua and prayer. When you learn to balance seeking limited advice from trustworthy people with pouring your heart out to Allah, you achieve both wisdom and inner peace. You receive the guidance you may need from others, while keeping your true reliance upon the one who never betrays and never tires of listening. Being selective also helps strengthen relationships. When you confide only in those you trust, you build bonds based on sincerity and respect. On the other hand, when you overshare with everyone, you not only harm yourself, but also create an image of being careless with your own dignity. People may begin to view you as someone who talks too much about personal matters, and this can reduce the respect they have for you. Your struggles and choosing carefully whom you trust protects both your own heart and your reputation. Ultimately, being selective in whom you confide in is not about mistrusting everyone. It is about protecting yourself. It is about recognizing that your dignity and your privacy are treasures, and not everyone deserves access to them. Share wisely, choose carefully, and always remember that the safest place for your secrets is with Allah. This balance ensures that you seek the help you need while keeping your faith, your dignity, and your inner peace intact. Every problem that comes into our life,
no matter how painful or difficult it may feel, is not without purpose. In Islam, challenges are not seen as random accidents or meaningless struggles. They are tests from Allah. These tests are designed to bring us closer to Him, to refine our character, and to remind us of our dependence on the one who created. Understanding this perspective transforms the way we see our hardships. Instead of viewing them as punishments or signs of abandonment, we begin to recognize them as opportunities for growth, purification, and connection with Allah. When a person faces difficulties, their heart is shaken. They begin to question, reflect, and search for meaning. This inner struggle can either pull them away from Allah if they allow despair to take over, or it can draw them nearer if they choose patience and reliance upon Him. This is why problems are considered a test. They reveal the condition of our faith. Will we remain steadfast and trust Allah's wisdom, or will we complain, lose hope, and distance ourselves from Him? The way we respond determines whether the test becomes a blessing or a burden. The Quran reminds us that life itself is a test. Allah says that He created death and life to test which of us is best in deeds. Every hardship we face is part of that divine examination. A financial loss tests whether we will remain grateful for what we still have. An illness tests whether we will maintain patience and humility. A broken relationship tests whether we will forgive, remain just, and avoid bitterness. In each case, the problem is not meant to destroy us, but to teach us something valuable about ourselves and our connection to Allah. One of the greatest lessons that problems teach us is humility. When life is smooth and everything goes according to plan, it is easy to feel self-sufficient. We begin to rely on our own abilities, wealth, or intelligence, forgetting that everything comes from Allah. But when we are struck with a difficulty that we cannot solve, our pride is shattered. We realize how limited we are, how powerless we truly are without Allah's help. This realization pushes us to seek Him sincerely, to turn to prayer with a heart full of need, and to remember that ultimate control belongs to Him alone. Problems also purify us. Many hardships we experience serve as a means of erasing sins and elevating our status with Allah. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught that no Muslim is afflicted with harm, grief, or even a thorn that pricks them, except that Allah wipes away some of their sins as a result. This perspective changes the way we view what feels unbearable in the moment may actually be cleansing us, removing burdens from our record, and preparing us for a greater reward in the hereafter. In this sense, the problem is not a punishment, but a hidden mercy. Another way problems bring us closer to Allah is by strengthening our patience and resilience. Every child trains the soul, much like how physical exercise strengthens the body. Without challenges, we would remain spiritually, but through enduring difficulties, we develop qualities like patience, gratitude, reliance, and perseverance. These are not just abstract virtues, they are essential qualities that Allah loves and rewards. A believer who learns patience in hardship grows stronger in faith, and their heart becomes more attached to Allah. It is also important to remember that no test lasts forever. Every difficulty has an appointed end, just as every storm eventually passes. Allah promises that with hardship comes ease. This assurance allows us to endure tests with hope, knowing that relief is always on the horizon. And when the ease finally comes, the believer who remains steadfast will not only enjoy the relief, but also carry the reward of having trusted Allah through the trial. In the end, problems are not designed to break us, but to build us. They are reminders that this world is temporary, that comfort here is fleeting, and that true peace lies in the nearness of Allah. Each test is an invitation to strengthen our faith, to renew our trust, and to cleanse our heart. When we begin to see problems as opportunities to draw closer to Allah, they lose their power to crush us. Instead, they become stepping stones on the path to spiritual growth and eternal. Guarding your privacy and dignity is one of the most powerful forms of self-respect a believer can practice. In a world where people are quick to speak and even quicker to judge, it becomes essential to protect your personal struggles from being exposed unless every word you speak about your private life carries weight, and once it leaves your mouth, it is no longer under your control. Someone else may interpret it differently. spread it further, or use it against you at a time you least expect. This is why Islam encourages believers to guard their secrets, to be careful with their words, and to understand the value of silence when it comes to their personal struggles. When a person shares too much of their private life, they often do so seeking sympathy, understanding, or valid, yet the outcome is not always as expected. Instead of finding support, they may find themselves judged, criticized, or looked down upon. People may begin to define them not by their strengths, but by their problems. What was once a private burden now becomes a label that others attach to them. This diminishes dignity and creates unnecessary complications in relationships, because not everyone is capable of handling your truth with care. Protecting privacy also guards a person from becoming a subject of. Unfortunately, not everyone who listens to your problems does so with good intentions. Some people may act concerned, but later share your struggles as stories for others to hear. They may twist your words, exaggerate your situation, or expose details you never wanted to be repeated. In such cases, your dignity suffers because what you entrusted in confidence becomes public knowledge. By keeping personal struggles private, you shield yourself from this harm and preserve the respect people have for you. Another aspect of guarding your dignity is recognizing that not every problem needs to be explained to others. Human beings by their very nature cannot fully understand what is in your heart. Even the most sincere listener can only grasp part of your pain, and sometimes their response will not bring you comfort. On the other hand, when you confide in Allah, you are turning to the one who already knows every detail of your struggle without you uttering. With Him, there is no fear of being misunderstood, no risk of being judged, and no chance of betrayal. This makes reliance on Allah not only safer, but infinitely more empowering. Guarding your privacy also strengthens your character. It teaches discipline in speech and self-control in moments of vulnerability. When you resist the urge to broadcast your struggles, you develop inner resilience. You begin to rely less on human validation and more on spiritual connect. This does not mean you isolate yourself completely or never seek advice, but it means you become wise in choosing what to share, how much to reveal, and whom to trust. In doing so, you preserve both your dignity and your peace. Moreover, dignity is one of the greatest blessings Allah has given to human beings. To protect it is an act of gratitude, but when you guard it carefully, you are honoring the trust Allah has given you over your own soul. This sense of dignity is what allows a person to walk with confidence, even in the midst of trial. It is what prevents them from appearing broken before others, while still finding strength in private moments of dua and prayer. In the modern age, guarding privacy has become even more challenging. Social media encourages people to share every detail of their lives, including their struggles, with strangers, but this culture of oversharing often leads to regret. Once something is published online, it can spread beyond your control and remain long after you wished it could be erased. For this reason, Islam's times advice to guard your tongue, protect your dignity, and keep personal matters private is more relevant than ever. Ultimately, preserving privacy is not about hiding weakness, but about choosing. It is about protecting your dignity from being compromised and ensuring that your struggles are dealt with in the best possible way through reliance on Allah and careful selection of whom to trust. By doing this, you save yourself from unnecessary harm, maintain respect in the eyes of others, and strengthen your relationship with the one who values you beyond measure. In this way, guarding your privacy and dignity becomes not just a practice of wisdom, but an act of faith. My beloved brothers and sisters, as we reflect on everything discussed, it becomes clear that our problems are not meant for everyone's ears. Life will always bring tests, but how we handle them determines whether those tests elevate us or break us. When we share our struggles with the wrong people, we risk exposing ourselves to gossip, judgment, and disappointment. But when we direct our grief and pain to Allah, we find peace, strength, and solutions beyond what we could ever imagine. The Prophet showed us this path. They complained only to Allah, preserving both their dignity and their trust in Him, we must remember that not everyone truly cares about our pain, and not everyone is capable of guiding us with sincerity. This is why wisdom in choosing whom to confide in is so essential. Protecting our privacy does not mean isolating ourselves, but it means recognizing that our dignity is too valuable to be handed over carelessly. Every problem we face is a test from Allah, a reminder of our dependence on Him, and an opportunity to grow closer to Him in patience and humility. True healing does not come from people's sympathy, but from Allah. People may listen for a moment, but only Allah can transform our hearts and circumstances. He alone understands us fully. He alone has the power to change our situation, and He alone remains with us when the world turns away. By guarding our dignity, protecting our privacy, and turning to Allah in our darkest moments, we not only preserve our self-respect, but also strengthen our faith. So the next time life feels heavy, remember this: your problems are not, they are between you and Allah, the one who hears every silent